Harmonics. We want to thank you and welcome you to today's episode of The Profitable Farmer. And today's episode, I wanted just to cover a couple things. One is sort of the background of our technology. I think that we've been trying to launch this product, this technology since 2019. We've been making really good inroads, getting a lot of farmers on board, and getting a lot of forward progress. There always seems to be that stumbling block when it comes to people understanding how our technology works or understanding what it is we're doing or how we came up with it. And today's episode, I wanted just to kind of walk you through a little bit more of the basis of our technology, because what we've seen is what I've noticed is the people that jump on board and get their trials going and get their farms started are really people who can kind of follow along and where the technical explanation of our system really makes sense. And the people who kind of hold off and don't jump in are the kind of guys that seem to have questions or that seem to think this is a little bit too far out there for their own taste. So today's episode, I wanted just to kind of cover the background of this, and not just with our technology, but really kind of help you guys understand that this whole idea of frequency stimulation of plants is not a new idea. It's not something that we just kind of thought up, or sitting there reading the newspaper and just had this bright idea like, hey, we're gonna use frequencies to stimulate plants. This is actually research that goes all the way back to the 19th century, believe it or not. The late end of the 19th century and all the way through the 20th century, and of course with our technology here. So I'm not going to go through all of that with you here, but I just want to kind of touch on some of the more recent research from other researchers, not from us, not from the inventor, Mr. Baumelli, but other research in the field of frequency manipulation and sonic manipulation into plant health, and let you know that there is quite a lot of research going on in this. Just because we're the first company and the first organization to come up with a viable product using this method, it doesn't mean that the research and the science behind this is completely non-existent. So I wanted to let you know and give you a little bit more background as far as some of these other researchers and let you kind of understand, where this is coming from. So you have a little bit of broader context than just us, a company that's out there promoting a product or promoting a technology. So let me just share my screen here with you, and I want to kind of, there we go, probably get you a little infinity thing, whatever they call that. So the first thing is really simple. Pardon me, it's a Google search, real simple, right? Effects of frequencies on plants, okay? So I just typed this Google search in, and you can do the same search yourself. The effects of frequencies on plants, because I really thought this was a good way to kind of introduce the topic. Because at the end of the day, again, I wanted to learn, and I did this search actually a few years ago when I was first kind of learning and really delving into this technology. But I wanted to kind of see what else might be out there, and this was a good, productive research. Now, don't pay attention to this 21 million results. Of course, that's just Google. But here in the very first one, it says, and this is done by the National Institute of Health, I believe. And this is sound stimuli can influence germination rates and increase plant growth and development, improving the yield of some crops. Furthermore, sound waves can improve plant immunity against pathogens and also increase their tolerance to drought. Now, we've been showing you case studies on this show, and if you've watched our Facebook channel or if you've watched our YouTube channel, you've seen that we've shown you case study after case study after case study showing how our Kyminasi Plant Booster or crop booster is actually doing these on farms all over the world. So if you want more results, go to our website. You can actually go to harvestharmonics.com/results, and you can see some of these different case studies on all these different crops where we're showing exactly what they're saying here. Again, this article is not written by us. It has nothing to do with us or our technology specifically. This was done by, in fact, let me click on this here. This was done by the National Library of Medicine, actually. So this was published in 2020 at Plant Signal Behavior. Okay, and I'm not sure if they've actually studied what we're doing, but sound perception and its effects on plants and algae, right? So he gives us a little abstract here. Sound evolved in life evolved in an acoustic world, and sound is perceived in many different ways. So you have here just a kind of quick synopsis of this. Now, it's interesting how they note here. It says sound waves are characterized by frequency in hertz, that's number of beats per second, right? Intensity, decibels, or how loud something is, and timbre, which is sort of the a little bit different. It's relating to frequency, but it's a little bit different, right? Now, the sound of propagation of sound, speed of the propagation of sound depends upon the characteristics of the medium in particular. And propagation means how fast something goes from one point to another, right? So the speed of propagation depends on the characteristics of the medium. In particular, it's directly proportional to the elasticity, meaning how springy something is, and inversely proportional to density. Now, interesting thing, it says frequency bands of naturally audible sound are, of course, low frequency, medium high, etc. So, and this is just some background about human hearing. But if you kind of scroll down here, he kind of talks about this. Recent studies show that plant organisms perceive sound as a mechanical stimulus and translate it into cellular and metabolic changes, right? Sound stimuli can influence germination rates and increase plant growth and development, improving the yield of some crops. And here he gives some of the citations, right? Hassanian, uh, these are some of the results. Hassanian, Mishra, Ghosh, and we've actually looked at some of these in some of our blog articles too. So Wang, there's a few different scholarly articles about this, right? And it says, furthermore, sound waves can improve drought, can replant immunity against pathogen, and also increase their tolerance to drought. Again, some more case studies here. So we have a case study by Choi and Gosh, and this one was done by Lopez Rivera, and we've cited some of these in our blog article. Okay, now here they go into algae, algae and microalgae, which is something you would see mostly in ponds and that kind of stuff. And he goes into an in-depth explanation of how the sound can influence cellular action. Now, this is a very interesting article. I will, of course, warn you that with any scholarly article, if you know, there's going to be a lot of terminology, a lot of words that are kind of complex and maybe difficult to understand. So just be aware of that when you're going in. But if you're into that, if you like to see scientific research and scientifically published papers on this, go to some of these articles. Again, this is just one by the National Institute of Health, which summarizes some of that research, right? And again, the effects of frequencies on plants in Google. So go beyond here. So it says beyond chemical triggers, evidence for sound evoked plant stimulation, right? Physiological reactions in plants. In other words, sound can actually evoke certain triggers or certain reactions in plants, right? So stuff like wind and the noise of insects buzzing and stuff like that. These things can have specific responses in plants, right? So even the sound, okay, our technology actually uses radio waves, which is not exactly sound, but it doesn't require pressure or a compression wave, that pressure the way sound does. However, it works on the same principle. But if you give a plant a certain frequency-based stimuli, then that will cause an effect in the cells of the plant, right? And here we have a whole article. And again, I'm not going to kind of go through exactly what happens. Can plants make sound vibrations, et cetera, et cetera? And it just goes into the different things and how that influences, how sound can influence, things like, biochemical responses to predatory insects, or the ability to absorb nutrients, or the ability to absorb sunlight and utilize this. And there's a number of different scholarly articles, Ghosh, Umatsu, Ghosh again, Young. I mean, there's a lot of different scholars that have gone into this. And this is Frontiers in Plant Science, so it's not like it's a well-respected scientific journal. Now, on our website, we actually have a blog article titled this Effective Frequencies on Plants, and you can find that here too. This is our website here. Now, in this article, we actually just summarized a lot of the same research that you just said, Mishra, Young, Zhang in 2012. And we actually gave a synopsis of how plants will respond. Different plants can respond to different frequency signals. For example, at 500 hertz, Ghosh in this study discovered that we can increase defense-related genes in the plant. In other words, we can stimulate those defense mechanisms, right? Increased yield is between 100 and 1,000 hertz. And this study in 2014 showed different frequency patterns that can increase yield in certain plants, like cotton, cucumbers, et cetera, and so on and so forth. And this article actually just describes several different crops that they've done this on. Now, this is just a short sort of summary article on our website. So I just wanted to let you guys know that if the idea of frequency manipulation, of increasing yield and improving insect response in plants through harmonic interactions or frequency-based interactions and signaling systems as opposed to chemicals or fertilizers, if that sounds a little weird to you, a little strange to you, I just want to let you know that if you just do a little bit of homework and literally just going to Google and typing effects of frequencies on plants, you're going to see a number of scholarly articles and a number of especially from Nature, ResearchGate again, that all these different scientific journals where researchers of a wide variety of different disciplines have already been discovering how these frequency manipulations can actually improve and enhance plant health and plant growth. So if you kind of have scratched your head or heard one of these presentations and said this sounds a little odd, just be aware that this research that has been going into this has been well documented and well studied, and it's been going on again. Literally, the music aspect of it has gone all the way back to the 19th century. But even just more discrete studies on the effects of frequencies and sound since 2010 to now, there's been a number of different studies, probably dozens of studies that have been done on that topic. So if you want a more in-depth understanding of how systems like ours can work and can improve plant health and production, feel free to type in the effects of frequencies on plants in Google and just go through some of those articles. They've already been published. Now, we are working on a couple of white papers of studies that we've done in terms of crop growth, where we've actually demonstrated how our frequencies, our specific programming with the Kyminasi programming, has produced 100% increases in yield on corn plants and other dramatic effects in terms of insect and disease response. And that white paper should be published. It's actually, I think, in the peer review process now, so it should be published. We would expect the next year. So Kyminasi does have white papers and university studies ongoing, and we will have those published as soon as we get them completed. Even with the new science like ours, sometimes it does take a little bit of time to get all that work completed, and we are working on that. But in the meantime, if you're interested in more information about the Kyminasi Crop Booster and you want to know how we can help you on your farm, then go to our website at harvestharmonics.com or send us an email, and I'll put it up here at service@harvestharmonics.com. And let's schedule a time where we can discuss your farm and your needs and what you're looking to improve on your farm and help you become part of the future of farming today. So this technology is the first of its kind. We know that there's going to be a number of different frequency modulation techniques coming out in the next 5 to 10 years. There's just a lot of research, and the benefits are just far outweighing the cost and other factors. So when if you want to be one of the first, if you want to be one of the first people to jump on board with the new technology and get a competitive advantage over everybody else, then jump on board now. Let's get you set up on your farm. Even if it's a trial, we'd be happy to work with you. But we want to prove to you that this technology and this product specifically is light years ahead of its time, and will produce dramatic effects on your farm. I mean, 20 to 30% increases in yield are actually very, very routine. It's not something that is out of the norm for us. And if you're looking to double your yield or triple your yield, we do have several examples of that as well. So if any technology can do that for your farm, it's definitely our technology. So let's get together, work together, and help you become part of the future of farming today. And I look forward to talking with you guys very, very soon. Have a great day.